Hello and welcome to Star Wars Roleplay. I'm just chilling out here. I think we're just gonna go straight into it, right where we picked off with Second Life Star Wars. We were looking at the timeline. This is video 3 out of 2. You can find the last video on my page here, and the first video is if you click the posts and you go to my first post and see my old page, the first video's there. So going straight into it, we're at 2007. The first quarter, you had Bastion open, which was a partial sim. The Galactic Remnant group formed there. Then you have the Jedi Guardians of Peace, Leo Mission, which is Os's based, the Wandering Jedi, which I think is kind of a continuation to the Shadow Jedi Order, but different folks. The Kashyyyk is first opened. You have another Jedi Order. There was a lot of different Jedi groups and sims and roleplays going on at the time. Force combat role-playing system. The orb combat system. So a lot of different combat systems are being trialed. I think DCS was the most popular, but yeah, there was of course some before. The Force Prophecies was one of my favorite things, which is a force system in HUD. It was compatible with combat systems of any sort, at the time at least. BIS closes. Elam Partial Sim opens. Little Moss Esley opens that year. There were, attempts at Tatooine a bit before, because I know NOJ was on Tatooine in the early days, and they had about 5 different Tatooine sims, and I think LME had gotten in on that. I don't know if they formed their own sim because all the other ones went down, but they're presently at 2, and I know that they did do some Naboo roleplay as well, so I'm just putting that out there. LME is still here today too. Sith Triumph Group. Zost opened. Galactic Senate. So, you're starting to have a lot of political roleplay. As you see, DCS2 came out that year. New Kashi Sim. Tatooine Sim closed and transformed into Dantooine, so we lost a lot of Tatooine space when that happened. But some good builders there. And I'm sure a lot of people, enjoyed Dantooine while it lasted, that particular build. Terrace Half Sim Open, which Furia Freeloader, she still holds a Terrace Sim. I think it's a full sim, maybe even a full sim and a personal lot, because there's Endor and there's the city of Terrace. Whether it's a full or half sim, like it is a nice build, and there's a shop, and it's good for people who are starting out. Terrace and LME, I mean, some of the stuff's a little outdated with all the mesh stuff now, but it's still good. Good spot for anybody that wants to visit and have fun in a Star Wars location, or who's starting out roleplay. Terrace building contest. So yeah, it was a big deal when they opened these sims. There was a lot of big events going on. Nar Shaddaa opened and closed. Anoth closed, which was like a giant Jedi archive that Marcus Moreau had built. I remember that was one of the places I had visited while I was doing my Jedi training. As I said before, I was in the Shadow Jedi Order and the Jedi Praxium, but at this time, when Anoth was a thing, that was more during my Great Jedi days. It served for all knowledge, really, light, dark, in between. Marcus had done a great job of opening that up to just about everybody that was involved, that was going on in Second Life at the time, because there were so many groups and so many sims that the fact that it was so busy, sometimes it was hard to I guess work, not, I don't want to say work together, but like hard for everyone to be on the same page and in the same place at the same time. there was a lot of respect, don't get me wrong, like, but yeah, I think I'm just going to continue before I go on a rant here. Obsidian Dominion is founded, which becomes a bigger group later on. Zin's Fury, the Jedi Praxium, which I mentioned I was a member of Praxium for a time. They founded the Jedi Temple, and of course on Half Sim. They ended up expanding to, I believe, a full sim, and they even got a like like a personal house estate, something that somebody would have rented out for something like that. So like, it was focused on the Jedi Temple. It had 4 layers of city, but it ended up also having the Senate chambers, and there was a lot of Coruscant, and it was a beautifully constructed sim. I don't think anything's quite matched it since. I mean, there was Coruscant 1313 a little while back. That was a beautiful sim, and it was modernized, but it didn't have any of the upper city. There was one other build which was kind of going on at the same time as the Jedi Praxium Coruscant, which we'll probably get to here. The Knights Academy group founded on John Van Dyke on Naboo. So I just want to say some things there. As I mentioned, Shadow Jedi Order ended up going to Coruscant and joining Jedi Praxium, and the Knights Academy by John Van Dyke would end up in the same fate. So all the groups from Naboo that folded and didn't go over to LME or any of the partner sims, like, or Telos as well was a partner sim, I believe. They ended up going over to Coruscant, as well as Leo Mission's Ossus group. They would eventually end up there too, but Victor Brody and Mantis Grebe, they both had been with the early NJO. I believe it's NJO, if not it's NOJ, but I think it was NJO, New Jedi Order group, and then they went on to do their own thing because they got really deeply serious at that point, and the team would end up growing. Fourth quarter of 2007, Telos closed, so that was another defining factor as to why some of the people from the Naboo sim had ended up in Coruscant and other sims as well, because Telos would close. Dan Twain would also close. Bakura sim opened, which I'd be honest with you, seeing as it opened in that quarter, I must have been. Naboo was definitely open. Is a weird thing? GRA Layman. I remember Bakura in 2006, and that's the year that I joined. So I feel like this may have been a second Bakura, because they have built it and rebuilt it many times, and the majority of the times Bakura has been up. It's been the Grand Army who's owned it. Malachor Sim, as I mentioned before, there was a lot of interest still in the Knights of the Republic. You had Knights of the Republic 1 and 2, both the video games had released kind of around this time. But then you also have a lot of Clone Wars stuff and people, legend books and stuff coming out. So they took inspiration from all eras as we kind of moved into Star Wars, and it's nice some of these locations you can visit regardless of the era. Even when they merged together, they seemed to make some sort of story to patch, even if it was an old Republic location, into the modern era. Elome, Manan, Assembly of Darkness, Zanoma Seacot, Coruscant Jedi Temple sim expanded. As I said about earlier, they did expand, and that's when a lot of players from Naboo ended up going over there. United Galaxies, and that was a big partnership, because that was a lot of groups and sims that had merged together to create United Galaxies. And it wasn't just a lot of them moved to Coruscant, but there was other ones like Bakura, Grand Army, the Republic, some of the Sith groups as well, even though we did have our own kind of Sith group and Empire. But there was kind of a few that were forging, and I'll talk maybe on another video about the different groups, if that's an interest. Droman Kaz, Cathar, open and close. That one didn't last very long. So 2008. I think I'm just gonna go right through to either 2009 and 2010, and then maybe I will, if I have time, talk on some of it. If not, there could be a video for another time. So Galactic Unity formed, which was very much like the United Galaxies. That's what I'm looking for. These were like, these are stories that, players can engage with in timelines. So, if you wanted to break from one, you could jump on another, and it really wouldn't affect your character or affect your roleplay. So yeah, that was cool that some of these different roleplay grids did kind of exist within a certain period of time, so that they could roleplay in different eras, but close to each other, because they wanted to focus on after the last Legends book, which is why my audiobooks are in that era as well. So the Imperial City, Ord Mantell, you have the Bis Empire, and Korriban, the Brotherhood closes. So these are some big milestones here, because as you know, like, the Bis Empire becomes the Sith Empire in Second Life eventually, but if we go back to these early groups, like, what year are we in? 2008. Okay, so this group would end up becoming the Sith Empire. This Bis Empire become the Sith Empire in 2009, and there's already a Galactic Empire kind of group, but they're more focused on being the remnants of the Fel Empire, and then the Imperial group that was from the Coruscant timeline, that was more like the remnants of the new Galactic Empire from Darth Krayt, right? And if you continue to look at some of these sims, right, like the Forest Moon Endor half sim open, which is connected to Terrace Hoth. Some of these locations became key even in roleplay, because you have Droman Kaz under Mizasi, Sith, Thrul, Cult of Ragnos, Dagobah, United Galaxies, open and close, Endor's Moon, Cult of Ragnos, Mustafar, Nar Shaddaa, Mandalorian group founded, Mandalorian clans. So every element of the roleplay is expanding. A lot of these Sith groups are making pacts with each other, starting to make alliances. Manan closed, Onderon Sim open, Polis Massa open and close, Bis close, Duxon open, Korriban Sim open, Thule, Cult of Ragnos, Taspir 3, an Academy, Coruscant Aeon Flux. That's the other Coruscant sim that I was talking about. It made Coruscant feel like it was one huge entity, because you had the temple side and the 4 layers and Senate chambers on that end, but then you could also go to what felt like a more of a wide open 1 or 2 level Coruscant that was good for battling. So both were used and respected. It gave us a lot of space for Coruscant roleplay back in the day. Kawe Order of Jedi group is founded, which they're still around today, actually, on Yavin. Republic Liberation Force. You have the new Order of the Jedi, who had left Yavin and resided temporarily in Kashyyyk. So that would eventually leave the Kawe Order Jedi open to make their own Yavin, after the NOJ kind of faded out. Order of Ro is founded, which is another Sith group within a number of alliances of Sith groups. House Moraine, the Black Sun, New Kashi, you have Zost closes, Sandrilia, Galactic Unity, Timeline, Bis Reborn, Mos Espa, which added to the Tatooine, Mandalorian, more Mandalorian groups are building up, the Black Sun closes, becomes temporarily inactive, the Exchange is founded, Kashyyyk is closed and reopened, yeah, you see, like, Kashyyyk, being, I guess, closed and reopened, it was a part of that whole Praxium movement thing. Like, they did flee to Kashyyyk eventually in the roleplay, but 2008, I don't think they were quite there. Like, I think they were more preparing it for that refuge. That's why you say reopened as a 2-sim Coruscant, like they did at one point have the 2 sims and the homestead sim that was, just United Galaxies Coruscant, and then Aeon Flux used as well. So Kashyyyk was, it was being put in motion because the story had been developed. You had a start, a beginning, and a finish point. They executed it very nicely. One of my favorite role plays I've ever done. Anzat Sim Open, Haroon Cow, Vision, if I'm saying it right. If not, I apologize. Mos Espa closed, Droman Kaz, Dark Lords of the Sith closed, so Dark Lords of the Sith was still around, but they would end up eventually merging together with the Order of Ro. Cathar Sim opened and closed. Sorry. Sandria Galactic Unity closed. Nar Shaddaa open. There's a lot of different Nar Shaddars, and at one point some of them work together. Bis Sim open. That one is definitely Dark Lords of the Sith. The Fel Empire group is founded, so the Imperial Remnant group from earlier is becoming more, I guess, permanent entity in its position, because people are kind of taking different elements of Sith empires plus making it into with their own characters. So yeah, there's many factions even amongst empires at this point in the galaxy. You have the People's Galactic Alliance, which is another like kind of Galactic Republic or Senate roleplay group. Order of the Jedi Covenant, Alliance of the Jedi. Yeah, there was many times where like a grand council would be formed, and then they would disband and reform. So many alliances were attempted and done throughout the years. So we go to 2009, Talos, Alliance of Jedi, Old Order Jedi, Dathomir, Droman Kaz, the Dark Empire, which is essentially the Sith Empire. Like I said, a lot of these groups merged together, and they had tried different ideas and role plays as well early on in those days. Tython Sim opened with a layer that was Ryloth, Droman Kaz, Haroon Cow, Paragus, Bith Reborn, Endor Moon. You're seeing a lot of websites that are starting to be developed forums for Star Wars roleplay and eventually replaced by other websites. SWRPEDIA definitely is a good tool, and not every single group and sim is on here, but they do a really good job. Like there is a lot of good information on here. Korriban, I don't even think I have to really read Rex's Prime. That's like Lihan, Knights of the Old Republic kind of world. But you kind of see how many sims and locations there was, and yes, some of them open and close. That 2009 is when the City of Theed closed, which I still used that location and roleplayed with those folks until basically until that sim closed, and even though I was on Coruscant, and I even ended up on another Sith world at one time, but the Jedi Praxium, they had their roleplay going on from like, you know, the early stuff 2006, but I was doing my own thing that year. 2007 they laid out the early foundation, they put everything together. 2008, 2009, those were like the prime years. And really 2010, I think this is the year that, you know, you have Kashyyyk, like they've made their way to Kashyyyk. Yeah, no, because you don't really hear much Ossus Praxium. See, like the Praxium kind of go into hiding on Kashyyyk in 2009. In 2010, they are rebanded with Leo and Marcus on Ossus. So really, those are the main years I wanna look at right now, to kind of describe, I guess, where I'm going with some of my ebook content, because I have experiences on Naboo, so that is a location, and Keegan Murasaki is a character that I have finally revealed. Like in the original book that I wrote years ago, like I had used my own character as the main character, but then having to rewrite it all these years later, I've developed a whole timeline and a whole series of stories, and the characters are all connected and the story's all connected. So right now I'm patching together the 2007 to kind of 2010 years, and it will be through some of my characters, because I spent time with Grand Army of the Republic. I spent some time with the Grey Jedi groups, and then I moved into a pretty serious Jedi group, and I redid all my Padawan, like I did the proper Padawan training. Basically, when the whole Rey's roleplay and the New Galactic Empire's invasion of Coruscant, and the near destruction of the Jedi Temple, my character was a Padawan who was like, he was close to the trials. And same thing with Zach Mistwalker, my companion at the time, and friend, who was also a Padawan, and we're trapped in the tomb, and we fight our way out, and his character remains in the light side of the Force for a lot of his years, following the Jedi path, where my character is tempted by the dark side by the events that happened during the invasion, and he, instead of going to Kashyyyk with the rest of them, my character would end up in Coloran, and he'd turn to the dark side and become a Sith, or a Dark Jedi figure, and a pirate as well, like a Sith pirate. And the Red Fury Brotherhood would, ravage the galaxy. They were kind of like the Sith Empire's fleet at the time, because a lot of groups were starting to band together, and different empires, but they did have a collective alliance against the Jedi. So yeah, that gives me some spectrum, and I am gonna respect anything that comes after. Like, if I scroll through 2011, that was, you have a lot more sims that are happening, but I kind of ease out of some of the role play, because a lot of people that I role played went their different ways, right? And I didn't go on and follow through with some of this. Like I had to take a break in 2011. 2012, I don't think I was there that year either, or 2013. But you see, like, there was a little bit of activity, and groups forming together, banding, making big sims, like some big names jumping and uniting together. But I returned 2014, and at that time, Zach Mistwalker had made his own Tython. I don't see it on there, but I know it was there. It might have been open sooner than that, but that's the year that I returned, and I hung around for a little while, but I had computer issues, so as I'm going into 2015, 2016, like, I might have occasionally popped on through the years, but as you see, like, it starts to slow down, kind of after 2014, right? Like, roleplay is not as serious, but if we go back to, like I said, 2020, 2021, it ends at 2021, nobody's updated, but to be honest with you, COVID, there was another big jump, and I'm gonna, like I said, I have a couple gaps. For the most part, I've been a solid long term player, and I'm gonna, now that I'm not really, like, I can't say I'm an active role player anymore, but I'm writing stories and audiobooks, and like, mine are not the official timeline. You got to contact these individuals and ask them what happened from their point of view. But I mean, I try to follow events. I try to follow a lot of things that I remember happened, and I like to put, like, my own magic in there as I'm writing. So that's why I wouldn't say, like, it's a strict, this is what happened. But that's how I honor and remember this, because we're in another kind of cold era, and dead time in Second Life and Star Wars roleplay, and unless there's another COVID pandemic, I can't really see it picking up to the way it was a couple years back, or even what it was in the olden days. Because even during COVID, like, it was close to the old days, but there was still, it was still just a little bit more toned down, because it was dice roleplay, and it wasn't like metered combat, like video game style combat, like Star Wars Battlefront 2 or something like that. So yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you guys. For now, I think I'm gonna close out of the Star Wars roleplay menu there. I will be making more Star Wars ebooks and stuff, and maybe I will do some more stuff from the SWRP page, and maybe I'll cover some forums and talk about some other roleplay. But for now, you all have a good evening. May the force be with you.